Here you go.
Hi, this is Alicia Gonzalez, 24/7 Modern Mom, and we have with us today Michael Lohan and Peggy Lee. Peggy's going to be doing a portion of an interview here with Michael Lohan, and I will be starting that off. But before I do, I really have to give so much thanks to Michael for dealing with some technical difficulties we were having. Michael, you were on the phone with us for over an hour yesterday, and there was no interview. Today, you've been on the phone with us for quite a while, and we're finally getting started here on this conference call. So I just first and foremost, I just want to thank you so much for your patience.
You're welcome. It's no problem.
Yes, you've been very, very flexible. Okay, so you know that we wanted to talk to you about three things mainly, and I'm going to be talking to you about the first couple of things. And the three topics are air, of course, which I'll let you talk a little bit about in a minute here, you and your relationship with Lindsay and the media and what that means to you, and then just what it's like for you as a parent growing up and more on a personal level, which Peggy will be talking to you about. So if we can just get started, can you just tell me about AIR and what you want people to know about it?
Well, AIR is really a referral business. It stands for Aid in Recovery, and the phone number is 855-94-REHAB. That's REHAB. AIR basically controls three different treatment centers that we have. One is called the Lohan Institute, which is a very high-end treatment center. And I say high-end because not only the accommodation's nice, but you get one-on-one trauma therapy more than you do any place in the country. And we basically have the philosophy that you don't treat the addiction, you treat the trauma and core issues that lead to the addiction. You just don't put a Band-Aid on something. You have to address the wound first, and that's what we do. So where other treatment centers, such as Betty Ford, where Lindsay was, she didn't get 1 hour of one-on-one therapy the entire month that she was there. We give to our clients at least 2 to 3 hours a day over at the Lohan Institute. At the other recovery center that we have, it's called Treasure Coast Recovery, and people there, it's more of a mainstream program, and the people live in cottages by the water. And they get one-on-one therapy, but they only get 1 to 2 hours a week, as opposed to 2 to 3 hours a day. The reason being is that if your accommodations and the amount of therapy you're getting is less, it's a lot cheaper as compared to a high-end place. And then the other treatment program that I'm opening personally is called the Right Path Recovery, which is a faith-based program. And faith-based programs statistically have the highest rate of recovery than any programs in the country. So what I've done, unlike the other programs that are faith-based, where they go to Bible study and they have church and community outreach, I've taken it a step further, and I've added a clinical and therapeutic program to it where people do get therapy where they don't in other faith-based programs. Did I lose you? Hello?
I'm still here. Alicia, are you not there? Well, that's okay. I can fill in for her. We're having technical issues. It appears they just continue, and we'll just fly with it. You've been fabulous, Michael. I just really says a lot about a person's character when we can be faced with that much adversity, and you've been very, very, very jovial through the process. So that's amazing to hear about what you're doing, too.
Well, believe me, Peggy, it's gone through the path of my life. You have to have patience, and you have to have humility. So, I've learned. It's taken a while, but I've gotten there.
Yeah, you have a real passion for this now. It sounds like you're not even just jumping in with one foot. You're jumping in with both feet. Can you tell me a little bit about your passion for helping people with addiction issues and where that stems from and why it's so important to you right now?
Well, I do have a passion for it because so many people I know have succumbed to it, and it's so prevalent out in society today, but because it's hit home. It's been very close to home in my own family. Growing up in high school and college, I never even had a sip or took a drink. But when I got to Wall Street every weekend there was a party from the minute the bell rang on the floor of the exchange on a Friday till Saturday night, because you had to recuperate on Sunday to go to work. It was off to the races, so I know what it was like myself.
Can you guys hear me now? I think I'm back on with you. I think I had muted myself.
We can hear you.
You are a character. Let me tell you,
I muted myself. I've got baby music going on in the background. I wasn't sure you wanted to hear Twinkle Twinkle. So couldn't get myself back on. So, you know, Michael, I do believe that you're passionate about it. We've had a chance to talk offline. But what do you have to say to people who say, you know, he's not qualified to run a rehab or to make his own rehab because he's been in and out of them? And for the people who think that you can't help others, what do you think your unique advantage is?
Well, I think they should read the letters I get from all the people that I have helped, or I can give them a phone number of about a dozen this month that I put into treatment programs. I mean, I don't know where it is. I just got a letter today from a gentleman that I put into Teen Challenge, which is a faith-based program, because he needed, you see, what people don't understand is I don't bring people into treatment to our treatment facilities because it's a money-making proposition for us, because, I mean, all places do have to foot their bills to make money. But if someone's not appropriate for our program, I send them elsewhere. Even if they can't afford it, I call up, you know, organizations that can help them. It's all about helping people. I could care less what people think. They've been throwing jabs at myself and my family long enough. And you know what? I know the truth, and God knows the truth. That's all that matters.
How long did it take you, Michael, to come to peace with, I guess, what your life is and what the public says about it, and to be able to have this positive attitude that you do now to say, you know, I know what the truth is. I know and God knows, and I can't worry about what other people think, because that in itself is a journey for a lot of people, and it's very difficult for them to arrive there. How did you get there?
Well, in a nutshell, it was on February 23rd, 2005 at 10:36 in the morning, because I still remember the time. I was in a car accident. I died in a car accident. They had to revive me, and that was just a turning point in my life. It was you know, the pinnacle of my life, but also it was an epiphany in my life, and it changed everything as I see life today. And from that point on, I didn't even take a sip of the drink. And I've been dedicating myself to helping people. You know, it's interesting that you say that, Michael, and I didn't know that about you, honestly. So not only is that fascinating, but it's interesting on another level because I was just listening to a speech that Peggy had given, actually. Mm-hmm. And it was a great speech, but she actually hit home for a lot of people because what she was saying is, you know, well, she hasn't lost a limb and she hasn't had some of these very tragic life events that people have gone through that allow them to have that epiphany. What is your advice then for people who haven't had that life-changing moment where they can remember back to the minute of when it happened? How do they make that change then? My advice
is for them.
Well, my advice is don't wait for that moment. Of course, you know, you don't want to have that epiphany. You don't want to, you know, to wait too long. You don't have to hit rock bottom, as people say, just to get better. It's a matter of, you know, you have to come to terms with yourself. You really have to admit to yourself. You have to want help. You have to be honest with yourself. You can't look in the mirror and, you know, and just, you know, fool yourself or lie to yourself. You really have to come to the truth. And to me, the truth is God. And if you have God in your life, nothing's going to work.
What is your...
Can I ask real quick? Were you under the influence in that car accident, or was that just a peaceful morning drive?
No, it was 10:36 at night, so it wasn't a peaceful morning drive, that's for sure. What happened was I had been clean for 7 years to that point. I had gotten information that my daughter had some problems on the set of Just My Luck. I had found out who the person was that created the problem in my daughter's life, and I thought my daughter was actually dead. I didn't know if she was alive or dead. And as fate had it, my cousin owns a private jet, And I called him up, and I said, Craig, I said, I need to use your jet. And he said, why? And I told him that, Lindsay had a problem. And he said, okay, I'll call it and get a flight plan. I'll get the jet fueled up. And I didn't tell him that I was actually going down there to actually kill the person that put my daughter in the position she was in. I went to my house. I was, contemplating what was going on. I had 3 drinks, 3 Irish coffees. I put a gun in my car, and I was on my way to the airport. And I hit a telephone pole doing 80 miles an hour. So the way I see it, the way I've come to see it, is that God knew in my heart I was going to take a life, and he took my own life, and he gave it back to me, so I learned a lesson.
I try not to cry during interviews, but that is inspiring. I think it's inspiring because you're able to look at it that way and be so honest about it. That's not an easy thing to say.
No, don't forget. Is this Alicia? Is that you talking?
Yes.
Don't forget, I've had a lot of years to come to terms with this. At first, it wasn't easy. I mean, after that night, after it happened, people don't. As a matter of fact, I was on the phone with the sheriff of Nassau County last night on Long Island, and that's where it happened. And his name is Mike Spazzotta. And we were talking, and we talked about the incident, and he said, I just never understood, Michael, why it was, I'm a sheriff, I'm not a prosecutor, but that was your first DWI, and they gave you 1 1/3 to 4 years in prison for your first DWI. And, I guess it's because we're under the public eye, and everyone knocks Lindsay and says, oh, why didn't she go to jail? Why didn't she do this? Why shouldn't she, why should she have gotten time? And you know what? When people are involved in some kind of a crime, whether it's possession of drugs, if you get in an accident while you're using or whatever, they don't belong in jail. They belong in treatment. I'm not saying I didn't, because God knew in my heart what I was going to do, so I accept that, and I had no problem with it. But you don't slam people who, and I was speaking to Vinny about, Mike about this last night. I said, Mike, they just have it wrong. They have it wrong. They want to put everyone in jail. Jail does not reform people. It hurts people. They just get more angry, more contemptuous. They plan. They're cynical when they're in jail, and they don't have anything to look forward to when they get out, so they're trying to figure out a way to make a living, which is usually the wrong way. So
how long were you incarcerated, and did you have a period of time where you had to work through that anger, or was your... I mean, you mentioned that date and time was when your life changed. Was it pretty immediate, or did you have to work through that while you were in prison?
That's a very good question. Was it immediate? Yeah, it was kind of immediate. That that whole blessing came over me, because when I did get arrested. Well, first you asked how long I spent in jail. Out of the 1 1/3 to 4 years, I appealed my case immediately when I got in there, because it was just an unheard of amount of time for somebody. And it took me 21 months just for my appeal to get heard. They just delayed it and delayed it and delayed it. After 21 months, my appeal was heard, and I won the case, and they released me. But I see it differently. I see it in that when I was in there, God had put me in a place where I was, the correctional officers I was involved with were all Christians. And I had gotten a letter from the senior pastor of Teen Challenge, which is an adult program. And he said, Mike, no, you're from Long Island, we're from Long Island. We really we know that there's something that God wants to do with you, and we want to help you. And I said, how do you want to help me? And they said, we want you to become staff member of our oh, my God, you're not going to believe this. The man I'm talking about, I haven't spoken to in 2 years, and he just called me on the other phone.
Wow.
How ironic.
Wow.
Oh, my God. I mean, that's insane. His name is Pastor Jimmy Jack, and he just called me. I can't believe it. I really can't believe it.
Why
you know what?
You bring him into the call?
Let me get him in the call. Hold on 1 second.
Give him a call. Tell him to join us. Right, Peggy?
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. I can't believe this. It's so funny. You're going to be off the line for 1 second.
Sure. So we're on hold now while Michael calls up Pastor and see if he wants to join the call. So he's telling me, Peggy, some things that I didn't know, and maybe that's because
what are you doing?
I'm not reading all the headlines.
Pastor Barry.
Yeah, Mike, what's happening?
Oh, my God. You're not going to believe this. You're actually on the phone with two other people right now. Barry, I was just giving an interview on the phone, and I was just talking about Teen Challenge and how I had my accident.
Oh, really?
Went to jail.
Oh, great stuff.
You called me up that very second. And when was the last time I spoke to you?
I haven't spoke to you in about maybe 2 years, Mike.
Ladies, did you hear that?
I heard that. 2 years, and he calls you on our call just when you're talking about him.
I was just talking about you, and you called on the phone, Barry.
Oh, praise God.
Yep.
God bless you, brother. What's
You
happening?
Well, I'm going to call you back when I get off this interview, but I have someone I have to send to your program up there, and I will be up there to escort them up there. So
that's great, Mike. All right, good. Take care of your business. Give me a call anytime.
All right. I love you, buddy. Thank you.
Love you
Bye.
too. God bless. All right.
Bye.
Good talking to you, Pastor Barry.
Talk about timing. Yes, talk about timing. That really is incredible.
The Bible says that man plans and God laughs, and everything. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, they say there's a time and season for everything, and that's exactly what just happened.
Well, remember yesterday we were talking on the phone, and we weren't able to get this interview going. We had tried everything. We'd been at it for over an hour, all three of us, and you said, well, you know what, then that's not what God wanted to happen. He didn't want it to happen right now. And now look at this.
How funny is that? That's amazing.
And that's telling me something too, because you started this, Michael, by talking about how prevalent addiction is and how it's destroying families, and I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the problems is that kids are getting involved younger and younger and younger. You mentioned you weren't involved in high school, but we've got kids who are starting to use in middle school or before, and it's changing their brains and making them many, many more times likely to be addicted. And part of the problem is as parents, we've become their friends and not their leaders. So I wanted to ask you, just in the realm of you treating or you even as a father, what's your view on teenage and children and substance abuse? Should it be allowed?
I don't know how old you are, but when I grew up, the drugs that are around today were not around then. There was alcohol, of course, and marijuana, and maybe a little cocaine here or there, but you didn't even hear or see that. But today, everything's out there. You have MDMA, you have spice, you have bath salts, you have heroin, OxyContin, Percocet, Percodan. I mean, you have everything in the world out there, and it's very easily accessible. You couldn't go to a doctor years ago and just say, I have this kind of a problem with back pain, and just get a prescription. Today you can. And that's
Michael, this is Alicia. What you're talking about what is a lot of pills as well, and that brings me to another question too. We're seeing more and more and more that what you're finding is housewives addicted to pills.
Yeah. Well, they have a lot of. See, all of this, like I was saying before, everything is trauma based. And a lot of moms and a lot of people at home have issues that they don't deal with accordingly. So what's the first thing they do? They take a drink, or they call up a doctor and say I have anxiety or depression, and they get Klonopin, or they get gabapentin, and before you know it, they're addicted. Xanax is probably the biggest one that they're writing right now.
So how can you work with the medical profession? How can you get them on the same page to stop over-medicating issues that might be better off with psychological therapy?
Well, that's where the balance is. You have to mix the two of them. You have to address the addiction, but you have to address the addiction after the trauma. You have to identify what it is. Is it a relationship problem? Is there too much stress with the kids? Do the kids have a problem? Are you going through a divorce? Was the person abused at an early age, and is it rearing its ugly head now? There's so many different things. I mean, I'll give you an example. There was a girl that was in a therapy session that I conducted, and she was just traumatized by a rape that that happened to her when she was 24 years old. Now she's 30-something years old. And she was coming to our group like maybe for 7 months. And every single week, all she talked about was when she was raped and what the person was like and why didn't they catch the person and this and that. And finally I got fed up one day, and I said, Stacy, look, with all due respect, I'm really tired of hearing you getting raped and all that. I mean, I know everything about it. I could probably be a detective and solve the case from all the stuff I know now. But I'm really sick of it. And I said, the only way you're going to get better is when you let go of it. Because every single day you talk about it, you're getting raped again. And she got really pissed at me, and she slapped me, and she walked out of the room. And, that was her choice. But about 3 months later, she came back, and she apologized, and she said, Michael, I've been seeing a therapist. And they said exactly what you said. And I've been talking about it, and I got it out of my system, and I learned to forgive and forget what happened to me. And from that point on, her life changed. So you really have to address the issues and not hold on to them, because people, even housewives, they hold on to things that are bothering them. Maybe it's because they're bound to the house all day, and their husbands are out and they're working, and they have that life where they have some change in their life, some variety, something different. And they just, they feel depressed over it. They want to get out and have a life. Look at my ex-wife, Dina. Dina got married to me when she was 22 years old and I was 25. She became pregnant with Lindsay at that time, and by the time, right after that, she had Michael. Then there was a 6-year gap, and then she had Allie, and then Cody. Dina did not have a life of her own for all those years. And finally, when the divorce came up, she started living her life like a teenager for all the years she missed, and she began to have problems because she suppressed everything. She felt like she was a great mom. Don't get me wrong. Dina was a great wife and a great mother. After the divorce, all of that anxiety and all the depression and all the, I guess, everything she held back and stuffed inside all came out. And now she's self-medicated and she drank, and it became an issue in her life.
Is she in a better place now, Michael? Is Dina
I think you would have to ask her that. I'm not in a position to really comment on what she's doing with her life.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't want.
I listen. She's the mother of my kids. I love her to death. She is. If I had to step to the plate, and I have over the past couple of months, and stick up for her or help her out, I will do that to the day I die. But when it comes to other issues she has in her life, I have to step back.
Okay. So I totally respect that. Can I ask 2 quick questions? And one is just I'd asked you a while back, and I think we veered off pretty quickly. But what is your advice to parents who have middle schoolers or young children that are experimenting with drugs? What would your advice be to those parents?
Well, first of all, sit them down and talk to them, confront them, tell them. But parents, some parents are wrong about what they see. They don't know. You want to hear something funny? Dina's calling me right now. How funny is that?
Oh my goodness, Michael!
Yep,
you are like that.
Yeah. But I guess every time I talk about someone, they call. I don't know if you want to call her though. But anyway, my advice to them is to really, be sure about what you're really believing in these kids. If you think they're using or doing something wrong, there are telltale signs, of course. If they're not acting like they normally would, or if they're missing school, or if they're failing in their grades, or they sleep late in the morning, or they're out late at night, if they're very overly aggressive, there's a lot of signs. But then again, you don't know if they're going through emotional things, and that's why they're acting that way. So you really have to sit down, and if you have any suspicion, sit down and talk to your child. But don't talk to them like you're talking down to them. You have to speak to them like you're one of their peers, eye to eye, and face to face, and toe to toe, and say, listen, I understand if you have problems with what you're going through. I love you, you're my child, and I want to be here for you. I want to help you. Don't slam your kids and say, what are you doing? No. You can't. It's not going to work. It's going to drive them further away, and it happened with me and Lindsay. I am Lindsay's father. I help a tremendous amount of people, but I can't help my own. And why is that? Because when people or adults pound their kids and they really get in their face, the kid's not going to listen to it. They're going to do the opposite. Kids will listen to their friends before their own parents.
Right. That's excellent. That's excellent. So can I ask you, it sounds like was your childhood growing up, would you say it was privileged? Would you say it was middle class? How would you describe it?
Well, when I was first growing up, my dad was a bricklayer. My father, was a hard-working man. He was an alcoholic. He didn't think he was because all he did was drink beer, but it was an issue for him. And he wasn't violent. I mean, he wasn't physically violent, but he was verbally abusive. And I was the oldest child, so I was, no matter how good I was or how well I did in school, it wasn't enough. I mean, I was in a championship hockey game, and I was a goalie, and we won 5-1. And after the game, he slapped me in the back of the head and said, "What's wrong with you? Why'd you let that goal in?" I mean, come on. But anyway, was I privileged? I guess in some senses, because I learned a lot from my father about work and work ethics. But my mother's father was a different story. He owned the largest spaghetti company in the country. It was called Prince Spaghetti. And, I mean, basically anything I wanted, my grandfather gave me. When I was 12 years old, he would give me $20 whenever I saw him. And that's why I saw him almost every day. So I was a businessman when I was 12. How do you like that? Anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I was groomed to run my family's company. But I saw that all the turmoil in my family and how, business-wise, how everyone wanted to get paid the same or more than each other, or I work harder than this one. I said, I'm not doing that. There's no way. I said, Grandpa, I just want to go to school. I want to be a lawyer. And for 3 years, I was school. And at the same time, I was still going on different acting jobs and stuff. And I decided not to pursue the acting thing and just pursue my law career. And then my godfather, who owned the brokerage firm on the commodity exchange, came to me and said, "Son, how are you doing in school?" I said, "Not as good as I'd like to." He said, "Well, I have an idea. Why don't you come and work for me, and I'll send you to the Stanley Kaplan's course, which is a preparation for, the bar." And I said, "Fine, I'll do that." And I started to work on the floor of the exchange, and before you knew it, I gave up everything, and I became a trader on the New York Commodity Exchange.
Yeah, and you did that for a while, right?
11 years before I had a heart attack.
You had a heart attack. Wow. So you almost died once before the car accident then. 31
years old, I had a heart attack. Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
Fine.
And that was due to cocaine?
No, it's from the stress on the floor. I have a pre-existing condition called ischemia, and ischemia is when your heart's a muscle. So just like any muscle, when you work it a lot, it's going to get harder and harder. And with ischemia, when you're stressed out, your heart works harder, and my arteries have a tendency of closing. So I actually had to go and I had to have a stent put in my heart.
Amazing. Okay, so how did these experiences? So you had children by now, right? At that point, you were.
Oh yeah. No, I had Lindsay and Michael at that point. Yep.
Yeah, you.
And Allie was Yeah, I was young, very young. Mm-hmm.
So did you feel like you had a plan for parenting? Were you just trying to do the best you can? What was were you parenting? Did you decide that the way your dad parented was not the way you wanted to parent, so you just did the opposite? What?
I did the exact opposite my father did, the exact opposite. I wasn't critical of my kids. I was, as a matter of fact, when kids, even if kids weren't on my team, because I coached my kids in everything they did, if kids on the team weren't that good, if they just had one good kick in soccer, I'd commend them and I'd like them. I made him feel as good as the best player on the team. So I wasn't like my father at all. But and work-wise, I had his work ethic. I was at work every single day and up at 4 in the morning. I didn't get home till 7 at night. But being ready for parenthood, I really always felt that, you have to be not only emotionally secure but financially secure to have a family. And at that point in my life, when I was only 25 years old, I was already making a couple of $100,000 a month. So I felt financially we were in a great position. And I didn't know how to handle it as a father at that age. But, I often thought, oh, my God, I'm going to be a dad, and I'm only 25. And when Lindsay came about, it's a very natural thing. I guess you just know how to become a parent.
Yeah. Is there anything in hindsight that you would have done differently, given some of the things that your family has been through, or is that one of those things where hindsight, I guess I'll ask it this way, if there is a family similar to yours and there's one thing you could go back and give advice to this other family, what would that be that would help them that you didn't get?
I don't know. I mean, through my divorce, I think that's the most important thing that people should address. When you go through a divorce, do not put the kids in the middle. Do not use your kids as a pawn or a bargaining chip, because it will destroy their lives, and that's what happened to Lindsay. She never drank, never did a drug, anything, up until after the divorce. And at that point, she was 18 years old. She was in a pretty good place. But the divorce didn't affect my other children like it affected Lindsay, because she was kind of more in the mix of things. And she suffered most. But my other kids don't have any addiction problems, but Lindsay does. So that begs to lead to something else. And why is it that if people, a family is predestined or has the addiction gene in them, why is that only one child is addicted and not the other ones? Or sometimes why don't any kids get addicted? It's because of the trauma. If someone really has a traumatic situation, it's going to flip that switch of addiction. My other kids didn't have it like that.
Yeah. Okay. And your just compassion for people in general and love for your family just really shines in this interview. Is there anything you want to say about that, or anything you'd want people to know about?
No, it's just, you asked about what I'd change my life, and if I wasn't a true Christian, I'd say, I would like to change this and that. But I really believe that everything in our life happens for a reason. There's no such thing as coincidence or a mistake or an accident, like the phone calls that we just got on the phone. I don't think that was coincidence. I think that was fate. I think that, God has his hand in everything. It's a matter if we want to grab it or not, if we want to hold on to it. And it took a long time where he walked beside me, but I didn't grab his hand. And at that point in my life, on February 23rd of 2005, I grabbed his hand with both of my hands. I'll tell you that much.
Awesome. Alicia, I kind of jumped in. Is there anything you want to wrap up with?
So I think we can wrap up just with talking about your relationship with Lindsay, because, of course, everybody wants to know about that. But, it was important for us to know about you. I think sometimes who you are gets clouded behind the fact that you are Lindsay Lohan's father. And it's interesting because even when I was posting on Facebook, Michael, I said, we're going to be talking to, Michael Lohan, parenthesis, yes, Lindsay's father. And I posted that, and then I thought, I don't know how I feel about that, because I wanted them to know who we'd be talking to. But at the same time, I felt kind of guilty thinking, all due respect to Lindsay, but you're still Michael, and there is a part of Michael that is separate from just being Lindsay's father. How do you deal with that?
A big part that's different. Well, first of all, I'm not Lindsay's father. She's my daughter. So I'm her dad. And you know what? Although we both have separate lives, people want to my whole family is ingrained with each other, and we don't have a choice. Dina and I never asked to be in the public eye, and we never were in the public eye. You never saw us during any of the premieres, any of the movies, nothing. Until our divorce, and then we were thrown in the public eye. So that's when we became more public, so to speak. We're not celebrities. No one has a right to call her or I a celebrity. We don't have the right to deem ourselves as celebrities, because we're not. We're parents of Lindsay. Maybe we're public figures. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. And the only reason why I would consider myself a public figure is because of things like this, and the speaking I do for Teen Challenge and my church and the ministry and in addiction, because I'm using what God gave me and this place he's put me at to help other people. I'm not doing it for myself. I could really care less, because most things
you've got to be a public figure, right? Because doesn't TMZ say so? I mean,
TMZ.
the public wants. I'm joking. The public wants to know, so it's kind of there's no way to deny. Yes, you are a public figure for sure.
Yeah, a public figure, but just because TMZ says it, it's not true. Believe me. I think we all know that.
Are you out there, TMZ? What do you got to say about that?
Well, you know what? I love Mike Walters, who started TMZ with Harvey Levin. I think they're nice guys, but they're doing their job, and I think that sometimes what they do isn't right because they only get one side of the story, or they want, like we were saying, they want the negative side of the story. You can do a lot of great things in your life, or it could be a great situation where, someone's out doing charity work, like Lindsay, and she goes out that night, and she's sitting in a restaurant, and people are drinking at the table, and right away it's not about the charity work, but it's about Lindsay drinking when she wasn't even drinking. But I'm not going to defend Lindsay, because there's been plenty of times that she has drank when she shouldn't have. But they always pick the negative instead of the positive.
Here's what's interesting. I hear you saying nice things about Lindsay. And while I'm going through the media and tweeting that we're going to be talking to you, there were a number of people that were like, oh, he's always talking bad about his daughter in the media. Do you feel that that's just one more example of your words being twisted or reconstructed for the benefit of something negative?
Well, let me ask you a question. Those people that made those comments probably made them yesterday or today, correct? Or for the last couple of days?
Yes.
Why don't you go on Google and see what I've said about my daughter? I said my daughter has never done better than she has in the last 8 years in her life. She's creative, she's talented, she's blessed that she has a craft, and she finally has her life back in order. Is that negative? Am I beating my daughter up? No, but they want to pick the negative. They want to go back a couple of years when she was using, and I would say Lindsay needs treatment. Lindsay is a drug addict. Lindsay has to get into a program. And why did I do it? Because I tried to do it quietly, under the radar, with my daughter and my ex-wife, and no one wanted to listen to me, and the only way I felt that I could really help my daughter is put her in a corner and let the whole world say, Lindsay, you need help. So, anyone, look, they're not Lindsay's father, I am. They have no right telling me how to conduct my life or what to do for my daughter when they don't know what she went through. They don't know what I went through, what Dina went through, what Lindsay's brothers and sisters went through, because there's so much collateral damage and so many people being affected by it, but they're not being affected by it. Those aren't the people that are really, all they're doing is they're judging. And I guarantee the people making those comments have some skeletons in their own closet because no one's perfect.
Well, and they probably bought the magazines and they joined the chats and they read the articles and all of it that perpetuated that. And really, like you said, weren't looking at it as this was a parent who was desperate to get help for his child and took kind of this last resort of, this is what I'm going to try to do to get her to be, is that what you're saying, to get her to be ready to get help, to want help?
I'm looking, I don't know if I could say I'm not like other parents, because there's probably parents out there like me, but I will go the distance for my family and people I love, and I won't let anyone waver me. There's no way. I'll die for my kids. I mean it. From my lips to God's ears, if I had to give my heart, my lung, my legs, anything to my family or my loved ones, I'm done. I'm not going to be walking again, or I'm not going to be living, because love is about sacrifice, and I will do anything to sacrifice anything I have for my kids.
What is your best memory with Lindsay?
Well, I don't think it's fair to say Lindsay. I think it's all my kids, and don't take that the wrong way, but my kids are my kids. And let's not forget, I don't only have Lindsay. I have Michael, Allie, Cody, and my new son, Landon, who's only 6 months old.
What's your best memory so far with all of them? Because I have 5 kids myself, so I know it's different with each child.
Oh, yeah, but at the same time, the best memory I have with my kids, honestly, is when they tell me, I love you, Daddy. That's the best memory, because it's not just one thing in the past that matters, but you hear it all the time.
And
I
Michael,
can remember
you had mentioned that Lindsay really suffered during the divorce, and I imagine that probably strained your relationship. Do you feel that's healed, or at least on the path to healing at this point?
What, with Lindsay?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, Lindsay does. See, the amazing part about Lindsay, she doesn't blame other people for the things she's done in her life. She doesn't. Can you hold on 1 second? That's a person that's someone I have to get into treatment. It'll take 2 seconds. Just hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
That's nice to hear. It's nice to hear that she accepts responsibility for her own actions.
He's pretty impressive himself. Yeah.
He's very open. I think he's been through a lot. I think it's easy for us to judge what we see in the media. And, I mean, already, Peggy, at 24/7 Modern Mom, I really just want to get both sides of the story. Hi there.
Hi.
You were just
I'm back.
saying people can go through a lot and not be wiser for the wear, and I would say that you are not one of those people. So that's, and not only that, you're also giving back. So we were just talking about Lindsay, and you said she doesn't blame others. So I was just asking, my words were she suffered through the divorce, but maybe you have different words for that.
Well, she did, but she doesn't blame us for what she went through. She doesn't blame the people around her for leading her down the wrong path. She's an amazing, amazing girl, and she finally, she's come to terms with not being around those people and not letting the divorce affect her because she never addressed those things. She thought it was okay, but it's not okay. It's not okay for a kid to go through a divorce and their mom say, your dad's a bad guy, or don't be around your father, or I won't talk to you again. She had to resolve those differences, and it's not there for anyone. And I encourage any parent that go through a divorce, leave your kids out of it. If you have an indifference, or if you don't like your spouse anymore, and you break it up, don't talk bad about your spouse. Don't keep them from their father or their mother. You're only hurting them. You're not hurting each other. I mean, it's sad. It's really sad. Here's a divorce, yeah, it's really sick because the kids are going to wind up being there. They're going to be the ones that have all the problems. Your problems are going to go away because you get rid of your spouse. But are the problems for the kids going to go away? Nope.
Well, and I think that's good advice for families that aren't going through a divorce because, honestly, that happens so much. And whatever issues that the parents are having, whether it's issues they can work out or whether it's issues that are going to eventually lead to divorce, they've got to be able to say good things about the other parents because that's still going to be the parent of that child at the end of the day, and they deserve to have that love without conflict.
Well, and the reality is kids find a way to blame themselves, and they also see themselves as half of each parent. So if you're a divorcing parent that's screaming about how awful your ex-spouse is, the child is feeling that you're talking about them in some cases. So just one quick question for me, and then I can let Alicia wrap up too. But I have a similar situation to you, Michael. My oldest will be 30 this year, and I have a 4-year-old, so you might have me beat by a year or two, but I have about a 26-year age difference between my oldest and my youngest, and there have been a lot of changes in what we face as parents, as what our children face, what they're exposed to. And so I was just wondering if you have any concerns or anything that you'll do differently with Landon, not so much because of any of your other children, but just what you've learned and the wisdom that you have, number one, and number two, the world in which he's growing up.
Well, it's funny you said that, but I've learned so much more. You learn, and that's what life's all about. It's about a learning experience and doing corrective and wrong, so not going down the same path. I just feel like I'm blessed to have all the experience I had with my other kids from Landon. And, I'm a lot more mature, too. When you're 25 years old and you have a child, and you're basically giving up your life because, let's face it, from the time I was 25 till I was about 33, 34, I didn't have a life. It was all about Dean and the kids. We never, in the course of our marriage, Dean and I never went away. In 19 years, never went away alone together except for one weekend, and that was to a spiritual retreat in St. Ignatius Church in Manhattan, Long Island. That's the only time we ever went away alone. We never went away outside of our honeymoon.
Oh.
Yep. So,
so would you say you do that differently?
Yeah, I would definitely have, at least a date night. Or take weekends and leave the kids with a sitter. But Dina was never like that. And to be honest with you, I never thought about it. I was like, okay, let's take the kids. But, now I would definitely do it differently, without a doubt. Husband, you have to keep your marriage alive. You have to keep a fire going. And unfortunately, I learned that after my divorce, and I try to keep a fire going as much as I can in my relationship. I mean, you've got to be in love, not just love someone. You have to be in love with that person. You have to want to see them and not just say hello and give them a peck on the cheek. You have to want to grab them and embrace them and look in their eyes and say, "Oh my God, I love you so much."
That's very good advice, Michael. It has been such a pleasure talking to you, offline and here. I hope we'll be able to, continue to talk to you in the future, hear what you're doing with AIR, with your own facility, how you're helping other people, how you continue to grow, because we're all continuing to grow. Mm-hmm. Now, I've got to throw this out there, Michael. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter.
I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. Okay.
Don't forget, because we have lots of great things to say about you.
No, you're amazing too, and your patience has been astounding. But let me say one thing: it's not. You see, I'm not only helping people. When I do this, they're helping me too, because they're making me more humble. They're making me get down on my knees and look at them. And not act like, hey, I conquered this and I'm better than you. No, the reason I have so much success is because I put myself at their level. So they're helping me. Now, I'm not only helping them, they have no idea how they're helping me. So I think it's a mutual thing. And, and by me doing the right thing, it also helps them because God sees that I'm doing the right thing. He's going to bless me too.
I can relate to that. Peggy's a great example right here at 24/7 Modern Mom. Very grateful to Peggy. She has been so helpful. I jumped in kind of head first because I said, well, it's time and I've got to do this right now. And I prayed and I hoped and I worked. But what really came together for me, which was almost unexpected, was the relationships that I had already built with other people over time. Mm-hmm. And those relationships are what has really helped us to grow. And so when I, look at who I want to talk to, whose story I want to tell, I really want to tell the story that says no matter who you are, we're all just the same. We're just
people.
My
God. You have to read the prologue to my book when it comes out. My book comes out next year. It's called Turning It All Around. And in my prologue, it says, I don't care who you are, what you have, or where you've come from. We're all human beings. We feel the same pain. We cry the same tears. We feel the same joy and laughter. There's only one thing that delineates or separates us all from each other, and that's the choices we make in life. Everyone is given a choice, and everyone makes a different choice, because those choices are going to be different all the time. But we're all human beings, and no one has the right. I've met the God fairest, the God that fires, the rich, the poor, the mean, the kind. I've been on both sides of the coin myself, but I'm no different than anyone else.
And that's what you've been able to help me, keep portraying today, is that regardless of where you come from or what your situation is, you've got choices. And I would suggest that no matter what choices you've made in the past, you can make a different choice today. Do you have any advice for people about how to start that today? What's one thing that people could do differently today?
Listen to your program more often, because you're giving a lot of sound advice. That's my advice to them. That's what they can do today to make a difference in their life. Listen to shows like this. Listen to people like you that have life experience, that are humble, that aren't afraid to talk about things, and, we learn from each other. So what they can learn today is listening to other people's experience is what you're doing.
Cool. I told you, I'm on the phone with you, and I'm on the phone with Peggy, and I've got food here on the stove, and therapy going on in the background with the kids, and the interview we did the other day had my 13-year-old waving the soccer ball in front of the video camera, and we didn't edit it out because that's just my life. So, I look at my life, and for myself and for my kids, I think I don't want to make excuses. I don't want to make excuses for myself why I can't do things. It's just going to be what it's going to be. But, I can do it with the house full of kids because that's what I have to do. And I can have a conference call at my kitchen table with a therapist in the back and turn the camera just a little, and that's just what it is right now.
Well, that's the kind of reality show people should be watching, not these things where people go shopping and everything is made up. People need a dose of reality in their life. They don't need to watch the Kardashians or some of these other shows that are on that just paint a picture of what really is and is. People can relate to it.
We're actually starting to work with some reality shows, and one of the things that has attracted us to them is just that, what you're talking about, because we're trying to dig a little bit deeper and say, okay, reality TV has turned into just another production. So what happens when those cameras are off, and what happens when these people are tied to all these contracts that says we can't talk about this and we can't talk about that, and what happens, when they go back to their normal lives, and whatever your normal life may be, it's not the extravagance of that big production.
Oh, well, do you really think to have a normal life after doing something like that? I don't think so. I would beg to differ. I think their life is stuck in that kind of a false sense of reality. That's not reality. It's a false sense of reality because they're creating their reality. Reality is what it is. It's not what you make of it. It's what it is today. It's what happens in your life. It's not a scripted show. It's something that we script ourselves, not that someone else scripts and tells us what to do.
What do you think people are going to think about our unedited version of interviews? Because when I talked to Peggy, I said, I don't think we need to edit this stuff. It's going to be what it's going to be, and it's not going to look pretty like some other sites. But let's just do it the way that it comes out and see what happens.
Because I think it's real. I think it was real that I'm trying to, get on the camera with you and listening to all the noise in the background and your kids and everything going on there, and Peggy's frustration, very minimal frustration with the camera not working and dealing with it the right way. People should learn from that. I mean,
and your amazing phone calls, both online and in the background, and Rob, who came to the rescue and tried to help out.
Well, and Michael, I think we had a couple of angels peeking over our shoulder today, so I'm just so grateful for our conversation. I did want to ask you real quick, because you're probably going to have to go here. You mentioned a book. Can I make sure I get the title correct, and if I can mention it? If I can't mention it, I won't?
No, it's called Turning It All Around, and it's being co-written by Tom Madden, M-A-D-D-E-N. He wrote the book Spin Man, which is kind of appropriate because it was all about spinning press and media, but at the same time, my book is about how no matter what you're confronted with, if you make the right choices, you can turn it all around. But at times when you don't, you had that opportunity, but you missed out on it. So no one's beyond, any situation in life isn't beyond repair, and it's our power. We have the ball in our court. We can do it, but the only thing is, you have to play ball with God. You can't play with the devil. I have a saying.
It's okay with you if I mention it?
Oh,
no,
yeah, absolutely.
No.
I mean, we're not editing this. This is being recorded.
That's fine.
Well, I'm going to write an article as well, so good. Okay. All right, well.
Michael, you've got my cell phone number. You've got Peggy's cell phone number. You are welcome to call and talk to us anytime. You want to get anything out there, you are welcome. If anybody doesn't like it, guess what? We don't care.
I guess I definitely. I have your number, Alicia. I'll tell you.
Okay, so
that was a joke.
I know it was, but I know you think that I'm who I am. So.
Don, lighten up, lady. Get out of that mode.
Michael, I'd like to give my book to you too, so I'll talk to you offline and find out how best to get that to you. So I just wish you all the best. It's just been amazing talking to you, and I think you have a lot of information that can help our readers and other people as well. So we'll be doing some social media. If you want to jump in on that, if you feel it's appropriate, that would be fabulous. And it's just been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, he's actually our first 24/7 modern dad interview.
Right.
So this was.
I'm on my way home, and I'm gonna embrace Kate, who's a 24/7 modern mom, and I'm gonna tell her how much I love her today. How's that?
That is so sweet. That is good. We'll talk soon, Michael. Thank you so much for being with us today.
And God bless you both. Thank you so much.
You too. All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.